Hey guys, how's it going out there today? Hey, if you're like me and didn't have a really good bass fisherman to teach you how to fish, you probably are wondering about pitching. Pitching can be one of the hardest casts. It looks real simple, but there is a little bit more to it, and it takes a lot of practice. So today I want to go over just a few techniques on how to rig your baits, just how to, and I'm not an expert by any means, but how to get started pitching and what it should look like. And I got some on the water footage of, a bait going in the water, not making a big splash, and we'll show you a little bit of that. So stay tuned, it should be informative. There we go. Get up in here. Okay guys, so, during these marshalling events where I got the marshal at the Elite Series, I used to think that I knew how to pitch. How to pitch a bait into brush and whatnot. I didn't know anything. Luckily, I was in the back of the boat. I got to film a lot of it, I got to study it, and a couple of guys, at least two of the guys out of the 6 I fished with, because at one point in time they all flipped. I told them, I said, television does not do you guys justice. There were times when they were pitching that bait, and they're not pitching it, 10 feet out. I didn't see it go in. I could not see a ripple on the water. It is amazing how softly these guys land these baits. The other thing about learning this technique, it's not only for pitching creature baits and paddle tails and grubs and things like that. Corey Johnston was pitching a square bill, and he was throwing it, quite a little ways, but he was pitching that square bill up against seawalls and bringing it back. I saw Mark Frazier pitching a buzzbait, because it was tight quarters. So he was taking that buzzbait and flipping it back up in this little creek that was about 3-4 foot wide and bringing it back. So guys, it's not only for doing that, it's a good technique, but learning how to make it land soft does make a difference. So just to demonstrate, I'm going to work this wooded cover. You can see that first pitch, there was quite a bit of splash there. That wasn't very good. Now this next one coming up, that's a pretty decent pitch there. There was a little bit of a splash, not bad at all, and it was right next to that limb that was coming up, so I was pretty happy with that. Now this one, you don't see anything. You could see the bait going in the water, but really that was what you were looking for. So let's figure out where we need to be to get that bait to land softly. And to do that, we're going to go ahead and go out here in the backyard. Yeah, that's a beautiful cloud back there, isn't it? Hey, just so you can't say I didn't warn you, a couple of things are going to happen. One of them is while you're pitching, you are every once in a while going to get in a hurry and you're going to put that hook in your finger. So be careful, try to just, cut down on it as much as you can. I tied a white ribbon on there just so you guys could see it a little better. And the reel, don't try to hold it flat, hold it natural to the side or whatever's natural to you. Don't worry about the position of the reel. See what I'm talking about? I got that sticking out a little bit for that ribbon. Like when I first started pitching, I would hold on to it too long and it would go up and then come back down. Kind of like that. And it'd make a big splash. That's not what you want. So this is probably what's been the hardest for me so far in learning this, is you want to keep that bait down lower towards the ground and flip it up at the end and follow it through, engage. And I'll tell you what guys, I do not do it well. The pros, they make it look so easy. Just like that. So if you notice what I'm doing right at the end, I'm lifting that rod up, and that does two things. One thing is it gives you more line, more slack. The second thing is it helps slow that momentum down, so when it goes in nice and soft. You're there just like that, and then you lower the rod pit down, engage your reel. That's something that I'm pretty slow at, is engaging my reel back in. Trust me, I had a jig bite, and that fish about yanked it out of my hands, and if I didn't have that reel locked in, I definitely wouldn't have got that fish. Hey, let's talk about line size for a minute. So if you're trying to pitch with 10, 12 pound test line, it's not going to end up very well for you. Number one, if you do hook a good fish in a bush, in thick cover, your chances of getting them out are pretty hard. So you're going to want to start out with at least like 17 or 20 pound tests. I used 25 pound last year. Fluorocarbon preferred, because here's the thing, the reason you use a stiffer rod, when you go to set that hook, you've got to move that fish. Okay, this isn't like a crankbait or something. If you give him a chance to swim back, to wrap around things, you're going to have a real hard time getting him out. So when you set that hook, set it. I mean, bring it home, get that fish moving your way and get him out of that cover. That's a big key to fishing cover and pitching and flipping. So again, we're just going to take the bait, hold it in our hand. We're going to start out low, release it, and let that bait travel along the ground as much as we can. And then at the end, we're going to flip it up and give it some slack so the bait can drop straight down. Just like that. Now, one thing I need to work on, see how my arm's extended? That's wasted motion. When I went back and looked at the videos of the pros, most of them, they were just pitching just like that. But it's harder for me to do right now. As you can see, my bait kind of flipped up. So I'm working on keeping that bait down low. Brandon Cobb, as a matter of fact, if we had like 2-foot waves rolling in on us on Lake Ray Roberts, he was having trouble because his bait was so low, it was getting into the waves. That gives you an idea how good those guys are. Like that. All right, so let's talk about the setup for a minute. Now, the rod and reel, I like to go with a higher gear ratio because you're gonna throw this thing 1,000 times a day. So when you're done shaking it, you know, you're gonna want to get it back in pretty quick. Left or right-handed, totally up to you. I am right-handed, but I grew up with a spinning reel in my hand trout fishing. So when I went to the bait casters, I just went left-handed. So everything's the same, because I've always thrown with my right hand, so it works out better for me. You want to go medium heavy to heavy action, and we'll go over rods in some other video. Medium heavy and heavy doesn't necessarily mean everything. Each manufacturer just has different bends depending on the blanks they use. So anyway, medium heavy with a stiff tip will get you pretty good. I like using a shorter rod, especially if you're just kind of getting started out. The shorter rod gives you a little better accuracy and it gives you a little more control. 7 to 8 gear ratio, somewhere in there. Shorter rod, I'm going to say this one is 6'10". It's a medium heavy and it works pretty good. So now here's a tip for you, okay? If you're just starting out, you're going to backlash, and you're going to backlash quite a bit. Even the pros backlash. I wouldn't have thought that they do. Now, they don't do it near to the extent that us amateurs do, but every 20, 30 casts, you'll see them take and just chunk that bait out there a ways to get rid of all those loose wraps, and reel it back in real quick and then go back to work. So here's a tip for you. Take and spool out about twice as much line as you think you're going to need. Okay? Then get you some vinyl electrical tape, don't matter what color, and you don't need a big piece, you just need a small piece of this tape. I would suggest cutting it with a pair of scissors like I'm doing, just so you get a clean edge, and get you maybe, you know, definitely not any wider than the spool. So we're going to call it 3/4 of an inch. We're going to cut it off, and we're going to put it right on there. Now you're not going to wrap it all the way around. You're just going to put it on there and then roll your excess up around it. That way when you're throwing, it doesn't give you that chance to get a real bad backlash. It's going to take you a couple of minutes to get out. Alright guys, well I really hope this video helps you. And again, I'm not an expert on it by any means, but I really wanted to pass along what I saw the pros doing, and when I went back and I broke down the footage of how their baits were moving along the water and how they got it to drop in so softly. So guys, get your bait in the water soft, and we'll see you on the next one. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe. Let's get out on the water and have a great day.